We begin this morning with the president's team, Attorney Jay Sekulow, brand new press secretary Sarah Sanders. And Mr. Sekulow, let me start with you. And thank you for joining us this morning. I want to start by putting up this tweet that President Trump sent out yesterday morning. He said, while all agree that the U.S. president has the complete power to pardon, why think of it when the only crime so far is leaks against us, fake news? I wonder if you can explain what the president means by that complete power to pardon. Does he believe he has the right to pardon himself?
Well, the president in that tweet stated something that's rather unremarkable, and that is that under the Constitution, under Article 2, Section 2, the president has the authority to pardon. But I want to be clear on this, George. We have not and continue to not have conversations with the president of the United States regarding pardons. Pardons have not been discussed, and pardons are not on the table. With regard to the issue of a president pardoning himself, there's a big academic discussion going on right now, an academic debate. You've got Professor Tribe arguing one point, you got Professor Turley arguing another point, and while it makes for interesting academic discussions, let me tell you what the legal team is not doing. We're not researching the issue because the issue of pardons is not on the table. There's nothing to pardon from.
As you know, the Washington Post reported that you were discussing it this week, that the president even asked about it. I take it you're denying that article, but I want to put up a judgment from the Office of Legal Counsel back in 1974 under Richard Nixon. They said under the fundamental rule that no one may be a judge in his own case, the president cannot pardon himself. You're a constitutional lawyer. Do you believe the president can pardon himself?
I don't think that you can, that first of all, it's never been adjudicated. Whether a president could pardon himself because it's not happened. But clearly the Constitution does vest a plenary pardon power within the presidency. Whether it would apply to the president himself, I think ultimately would be a matter for a court to decide if it were to ever come into an existence. As I said, that's not something that we're looking at. But from a constitutional legal perspective, you can't dismiss it one way or the other. I think it's a question that would ultimately, if put in place, would probably have to be adjudicated by the Supreme Court to determine constitutionality. The document itself, we talk about the document, the Constitution, Article 2 is very clear. The president has the power to pardon. But again, there's academics who are arguing both sides of this. And as I said, we're not researching it. I haven't researched it because it's not an issue we're concerned with or dealing with.
So you think it's an open question. Let me move on to Special Counsel Mueller. The president complained to the New York Times this week that Robert Mueller has an inherent conflict of interest because he interviewed for the FBI director's job before he was appointed. I want everyone to listen.
The day before, of course, he was up here. Mueller wanted the job. I said, what the hell is this all about? Talk about conflicts. No, he was interviewing for the job.
He went on to say there were many other conflicts that I haven't said, but I will at some point. What did he mean by that? What other conflicts of Robert Mueller does he have in mind?
Well, George, you know, any lawyer that's involved in any kind of matter, one like this, or if a court matter for that, you're always looking at the issue of potential conflicts or conflicts as they arise. If a conflict does arise, what a lawyer does, and you would be no different here, is you raise that conflict with, in this particular case, initially with a special counsel. If it was a serious enough conflict that you felt was not being rectified, you would go to the Deputy Attorney General who appoints the special counsel here, the way it's set up with the recusal of Jeff Sessions. So what the president's talking about is that in due time, if there is in fact a conflict that the legal team deems is significant enough that it needs to be raised, as any lawyer would do, we would raise the conflict with the special counsel.
Mueller has an inherent conflict. He already said that Mueller has a conflict. Has that been raised with the Deputy Attorney General?
Yeah, we've not raised it with the Deputy Attorney General yet. I will tell you this, that the special counsel's situation, which is a bit unique in the way it's structured, it's not an independent counsel, it's a special counsel. You have to be evaluating conflicts as a matter moves forward. Remember, we're not at an investigative stage yet. So I'm not going to start talking about individual and particular conflicts that could exist that would put us in a position where we would, in fact, raise that issue. But I will also tell you that as the lawyers for the president, we're going to be constantly evaluating that situation. And if an investigation were to arise and we thought that the conflict was relevant, we would raise it without question.
The president has already raised it, and he doesn't seem to be on the same page as his lead attorney, John Dowd, who, with an interview with the Wall Street Journal, dismissed the idea that Mueller has conflicts. I want to show that. He said, we all know him, and we're not interested at all in that kind of collateral nonsense, speaking of the conflicts. He's an honest guy, and he's done his good job. I wonder how you reconcile the statements of President Trump and the statements of Mr. Dowd. Does the president agree that Mueller is an honest guy who's done a good job?
Those are not inconsistent statements. What you're talking about, the president was talking about conflicts that exist within the special counsel's office, or that may rise to a level that we have to address them. And remember, not every conflict you have to address, but when they get to certain levels, you do address them.
He was talking about Mr. Mueller's personal conflict.
Yeah, so John Dowd was responding to the fact that we've had an ongoing, professional dialogue with the special counsel's office and haven't yet raised the issues of conflict. But let me say this again to be clear. The president's concerns are our concern as well. If there is, and we're concerned about the conflicts, as conflicts mature, and that's how it works in a proceeding, if the conflict matures and we actually have an investigation, which right now we don't, those conflicts would be raised within the appropriate venue, no question. I don't think what John Dowd said is inconsistent with the president at all.
Well,
John's addressing the legal. George, let me just finish. John Dowd, who's a brilliant criminal defense lawyer here in Washington, John is raising the scenario as it exists with regard to the special counsel's office as he sees something possibly moving forward. What the president's concerned about is apparent conflicts that have already kind of bubbled to the surface. And look, any lawyer that's handling a matter like this would look at those seriously and take the appropriate action. And I'll assure you, and assure the president, we're doing it.
Mr. Dowd calls the idea of conflicts collateral nonsense. The president is raising the conflicts. He didn't only raise it about Mr. Mueller. He said that the deputy attorney general is conflicted in that New York Times interview. He said that the acting FBI director is conflicted as well. And, he seems to be raising questions about everybody who's involved in this investigation. Are you concerned at all that this is going to bolster the case for obstruction of justice, that the president appears to be questioning everyone involved in this investigation?
No, he has the right to raise concerns. I mean, you got the situation with the acting FBI director whose wife received, I think it was $500,000 or $700,000 from Terry McCullough's PAC while she was running for a Senate seat in Virginia, a state Senate seat in Virginia. You can't ignore that as an issue. I mean, I think it would be naive by any lawyer to just glance over that and say, well, that's not a big deal. Those are issues
the problem
that
that
have
the
to be
deputy
addressed.
attorney general is from Baltimore.
Well, he was concerned about the appointment of the deputy attorney general from Baltimore because he's concerned, as he raised it in the article. I mean, this is no secret what you're saying, is that a Democratic state, Democratic appointment here. And does that in and of itself, look, you have to look at a conflict in a totality of circumstances. I've been practicing law for 38 years. In every case I'm involved in, and I've been involved in them, as you know, at the Supreme Court of the United States. I've argued cases in international tribunals. I've handled congressional investigations before the House and Senate. Here's what happens. You look at these issues and you make a determination based on looking at those issues whether it is something that has to be raised within the appropriate venue. So again, what is happening here is the president has recognized some apparent conflicts right off as a non-lawyer, right off just evaluating the situation, and you don't ignore those. I mean, anything like this has to be evaluated, and we'll do that.
I have to say, I don't understand how being from Baltimore, serving in Baltimore, he's not even from Baltimore, he's from Pennsylvania, is a conflict. But I want to bring up one final tweet from the president. This was yesterday as well. He said, so many people are asking, why isn't the AG or special counsel, he didn't spell it correctly, they're looking at the many Hillary Clinton or Comey crimes, 33,000 emails deleted. Which Comey crimes does the president believe the Justice Department or Mueller should be investigating?
Well, I think there's a really serious one, George, and that is the president of the United States is concerned, as I am as his lawyer, that James Comey, when he was the FBI director, took notes of conversations he had with the president of the United States. He put them on a government computer, put them in his government desk, and then he was fired. He took his he called them private notes. By the way, the investigators and special counsel and the government have concluded that this is, in fact, government property. He took government property, which was his private notes on conversations with the president, leaked them to the press. For what purpose? And he had said this under oath, for the sole purpose of obtaining a special counsel, who happened to be appointed the day after that special counsel, Bob Mueller, right before he was special counsel, interviewed for the FBI job. So, I think, look, this is the reality of what happened. So the special counsel comes out of this illegally leaked information by James Comey, because let me tell you what an FBI director nor an FBI agent can do: leak government property. And that's what happened here. And if it was an FBI agent that did it, they would be investigated by the FBI. Now, maybe they are. I don't know that they are. We can't make that determination, certainly not public. But I think it has to be done. An illegally leaked memo of conversations that he had with the President of the United States was the basis for which a special counsel was put in place. And let me also say this. It was also that conversation would have been covered by executive privilege, and James Comey ignored that, did not give the president or anyone else at that point, when he leaked the information, the opportunity to assert that privilege. I think that was not only a dereliction of his duties, I think it was a violation of his constitutional oath and violated criminal statutes.
That's all we have time for today. As you know, it's an open question of whether it was illegal. He says it's not classified, and of course the president did not claim privilege over Comey's testimony. But thanks a lot for your time this morning.
Four of those documents have already been deemed classified, George. And the fact is, it doesn't have to be classified to be illegally leaked under Section 641 of the Criminal Code.
Jay Sekulow, thanks very much for your time this morning.